Hey guys, welcome to Buddha Belly Life. This month we are covering a wellness topic that's kind of on the psychology level. And I will say, I'm not a psychologist. This isn't psychology or any kind of advice. This isn't medical advice. That's not what we're doing here. We're actually going to be discussing the topic of what is called codependency and its correlation to health and wellness, and specifically autoimmune conditions and gut issues. So I'm Coach Britt. Welcome to Buddha Belly Life. If you haven't joined one of my classes yet, we are a trademark program. We are part of the Holistic Wellness Coaching Academy, which is an AADP accredited school for gut health coaching. And these classes are a way that we like to educate the population who's looking for more in-depth work on their health, on their gut health, on their brain-gut connection. And I have an extreme passion for mental health and mental wellness. So I'm the author of Buddha Belly. I obviously am the founder of the Holistic Wellness Coaching Academy and Buddha Belly, which is now an officially trademarked name and program and podcast. Okay, so today's class, you guys, we're going to be talking about the topic of codependency. So I'm going to go over kind of what it is, what it looks like, why it's important to kind of understand this, what it can kind of do when we understand this, and how we can maybe overcome some of the challenges to our health that may be kind of correlated to this funky little thing we call codependency. So what is codependency? So, you're going to find definitions of this, but it's kind of one of those things. It's not necessarily a dictionary type of word, even if you may find it in a dictionary. If you're going to Google it, actually, you're going to get a couple of different answers. So I'm going to read a couple of these for you. So one is an excessive emotional slash psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support, like an addict. Another definition was emotional slash behavioral condition that keeps an individual from personally being satisfied in a relationship. So, and what this means is that, so where this first kind of came about was really in the topic of alcoholics and addicts. What they were seeing is they were seeing a lot of what's now coined codependency in the spouses and partners of people with addiction. It can show itself in ways of, enabling, whether it be where the other person, the codependent, kind of picks up all the pieces, carries all the stress, feels responsible, maybe gets really controlling. They have to control the environment or things going on. And this was kind of brought about from the partners of addicts, and these people that were on the other end of like an alcoholic or an addict, and rode the roller coaster of these kind of behavior challenges and lifestyle things. They would start expressing a lot of mental health themselves, like extreme fatigue, just a lackluster view of life. Things like, if someone who's codependent, you may hear them say things like, just, if I don't, nobody will, or I have to do it, or everyone relies on me to do it, or, I better do that because I'm the only one who will. You may see them check up on a lot of things, or kind of overly micromanage. And this is kind of a survival mechanism it can be a survival mechanism for people who are in a situation and or have come from situations that are unpredictable and cause distress. That then they try and take control of a situation or feel responsible for something that's not necessarily theirs to be responsible for. And so this is how it came about. And so it's not always, as a coach and as somebody who kind of studies the brain and behavior and all that, it's not always just addicts and the partners of addicts that deal with these traits. So what we actually see is we see a lot of people in general, especially maternal minded individuals, moms and caregivers, things like that, can actually kind of struggle with some of these codependent traits, and it can start really weighing on the stress of the brain and the body. There's higher levels of autoimmune conditions, chronic illness, chronic fatigue, like I said, kind of just lack of self-care, this popular belief that like I come last, if I even, if there's even room for me at all, I need to make sure everyone else is fully taken care of and happy before I can take care of myself. Or whenever someone's not okay or happy, I am responsible for fixing it for them. And these kinds of beliefs may be very unconscious behaviors, but they leave us in a constant state of angst and fight or flight. And being in a constant state of fight or flight is detrimental to the body, to the brain, and obviously the gut microbiome. And when that gut gets out of whack, what happens, right? It inflames everything. It messes with the body. We're going to see things like brain fog and etc. Now, it's one of those things, you guys, that we don't know which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Is it the codependent traits that come first that then wear us out so much that our body starts fatiguing and our adrenals start shutting down and we start having gut issues and we start experiencing autoimmune conditions and mental health and etc.? Or is it like our conditions that we're dealing with and being in a fatigued body that can't really take on the thought of more? You know, a tired body and a worn out brain from things in life or different ailments that we may be dealing with can make average everyday things feel very heavy. Make simple things like what's for dinner feel like a massive decision that just can't be made. And so, you guys, the answer to this is always the same as every time that I bring this up in class. There is no answer. Everybody's different. And even you as an individual may not know which comes first in you, which is why we always approach things holistically, right? Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And we look at it all together. So here's some tips on how we can kind of guide our own health, be aware of traits that are codependent or places in our life where we take on things that aren't ours to carry. And we can be aware so that we can have the energy to prioritize our health, or we can start seeing headway in our health and not holding ourselves back or not working against it by carrying such an incredible load of stress and responsibility that the other things we're putting into play with our diet and our lifestyle and our meditation and our walking aren't doing enough because our stress is so much. Okay, so here's a few things we can do. Okay, be aware. So self-awareness, you guys, read a book, get in a counselor, get in a group. If you are somebody who's on the end of other end of somebody that has like an addiction, this is a very common place to be in. So you can join things like Alcoholics Anonymous has something called Al-Anon, and that's really for the partners of people that are struggling because they realize that they need help too. There's different support groups in churches. I know there's you can look for groups online and things like that. Start reading about it. But just being self-aware that maybe we have a tendency to take on stress that isn't ours, to overload our body, our mind, and our belief systems to a capacity that we can't handle. If you see yourself doing things like that, self-awareness is the first piece. When you find yourself absolutely overwhelmed with life, or maybe feeling some of these common feelings like just what's the point of getting up in the morning, and do know that depression and mental health are very real. So please always seek out help. Get with a counselor. If you ever have an emergency, you know, this is not medical advice. But the process of discovering how your brain works, the patterns in your life, the things you're thinking and feeling is really important. So as we do this, we may go through our day and realize, I'm just really unmotivated. I want things, but I never put them into play. I feel like they're too hard. I feel like there's not room for me. I feel like everybody else's problems are my problems. I feel like I do everything around here and no one appreciates me. Okay, we all have moments of feeling these things. But if they start becoming an overwhelming and frequent part of your life, then there's something to look at in this whole codependency thing. Are you choosing to take on the emotional and mental weight above the tasks, above the things that fall on our plate or fall on our responsibilities? Are you choosing to take on more than you need to? And are you choosing to take on above and beyond that the mental and emotional weight of these things? So being aware of it is the first step. To start seeing these things in ourselves, start identifying, and then we choose where we go, counseling, books, all of that, right? We can choose kind of how we start addressing that so we can understand ourselves a little more and know where to go from there. The next one is to ask yourself questions. What am I feeling right now? Because honestly, in a state of overwhelm loves to like blow up everything and make life suck. Like everything's hard. This is never going to get better. It catastrophizes. It can do that a lot. My kids do it. Shoot, I do it. My partner does it. Like we have moments like that too, where it feels like the state I'm in right now is just everything and blah, we're blowing up. So ask yourself questions, do I really need to do this? What am I feeling right now? What state am I in? What state do I want to be in? Is this really mine to take on? Can I control the situation? Am I trying to control it? These are questions you're going to start asking yourself as you dig into this process after you become self-aware. And most importantly, implementing the practice of boundaries. So what boundaries mean is that I have the right to say yes and I have the right to say no. And I may have big responsibilities with my children, but you know what? I have the right to say, hey, I know you can't find your shirt you want to wear today. That's a bummer, but you're capable of looking for it. I don't have time right now to do that. Or I can choose to say, oh, they're really stressed. They can't find their shirt. I need to go find it for them, right? But I get a choice. And yeah, there are sometimes repercussions, especially with kids. When we're training anyone how to treat us or where our boundaries lie, there will be pushback. Same goes for adults. Okay. I have a choice, for people in severe situations where they're with somebody who's maybe an alcoholic or something. I may not be able to control their behavior or the patterns that they're having, right? But I can control what I do with it. I can say, if you're going to do this, then you're going to have to do this in your own space, away from children. You're going to have to, I'm going to do the pickups and, etc. Like, I'm going to put some of these things in play because I can't control what you do. And I can't really rely on you to do that part. So I'm going to take this piece. It's okay to give an ultimatum. It's okay to say, hey, I'm here, but unless you get help, you're not allowed in this space. Or I'm not going to stay here. If you're the kind of person that's walking someone through a hard time all the time, they need me to help them through this. Okay, right there, those words are something to pause with, because everyone holds all the tools they will ever need. And while it's great to be a support system. You never want to enter something believing that you are the salvation, that you are what's going to get them through. And this is common, especially for people, and I train a lot of coaches like this, I'm like this myself, who are self-proclaimed empaths, where we feel so big for other people. People who are highly intuitive, we tend to have maybe backgrounds with trauma and emotional situations. So we have natural compassion. And sometimes it is a natural response, which is a blessing in its own way, to want to help soothe that in other people. We can recognize that those similar pains, and we want to make that go away. We want to soothe it, right? But we can end up then taking on the pain or situations of other people. And maybe they're not ready yet. They're not ready to take it on themselves. And so we end up engulfing ourselves in their processes. And we can't step out of it very well. And it starts and then hindering our health, our mental health, our quality of life, and relationships. And these are just things to be aware of. So to be able to be a compassionate person, but know where it's not yours to carry, know where it's not yours to intervene, know where to make peace with that being someone else's journey. These are how we start developing boundaries and start stepping away from some of the extra loads of stress and all of the damage that comes from it, without foregoing our compassionate nature and all the gifts that we are blessed with. So I hope this makes some sense to you guys. Feel free to chat in the closed group, the Buddha Belly Life group. Feel free to check out more at buddhabellylife.com. If you're interested in the school, it's guthealthschool.com, where we get certified in the gut on a holistic level and the brain-gut connection. Thank you so much for joining this class. I hope it's been beneficial. I'm excited to hear your feedback.